Anyway, hi. If you have not been here before, my name is Allie. I am the coordinator of cataloging and technical services at White Pine Library Cooperative, and this is my director, Kate. Kate, if you want to say hi, feel free. I'll mute quick.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. This has been a long process, and um, it's like we're in the home stretch. And a number of folks have already started beta testing the platform, so we're excited to have more people join, and then we get to finally rest in peace, Peabody, somewhere in June. So thanks for being here.
Sweet. Okie dokie. So let's see here. So by the goal is that by the end of the session, you'll be able to place a new borrow request in our new system, Clio, and also know how to answer requests to lend. If you've been following along the past couple years, we've been working on trying to update Peabody for a while due to just its kind of outdated nature. It was built by my predecessor, Sheila Good, and it served its purpose for a good long while, and we thank you for its service. But Sheila did retire 4.5 years ago now, and it's been a long time since she wrote that code. So even if we went in to go and try and fix things, the odds are that as you try to fix data in an older sort of website like this, fixing one thing is going to lead to a butterfly effect somewhere else, and so far and so forth down the line. And probably doubly so if we had gone out in search of somebody who, like just contracting out with somebody who was not familiar with the system itself. So unfortunately, coding is not one of my skill sets. And even our web host support, who was previously responsible for just hosting Peabody, has refused more in-depth support that they used to previously provide, which is very unfortunate. So we were very much so in need of an upgrade, both for the longevity of the program and for a better experience for myself, for you all, for our patrons. And I think that with Clio, we've really found that. We did go through a period where I was thinking we were going to build a custom website kind of similar to Peabody, and it ended up as we looked to try and get quotes and see how managing that would work, it was going to be in the six-digit figures, which was not something that I was looking to put on our our cooperative as a bill or you all in terms of like the request price for non-members. I was not looking to increase the amount of money per request to justify building a custom solution that we still would have had to maintain and would have had similar issues with. So Clio, in contrast, has been very cost effective. I've been playing around in it since late December. And the past couple of months, we've had a team of about 10 or 10-ish people who have been beta testing it, as well as looking at the documentation that I've created to try and make sure that it is streamlined, makes sense, easy to follow, and really helps guide you through the new system. So we're going to take a look at that today as well, just kind of briefly. And I'm also just going to demo the website for you all. Let's see here. Does anyone have any questions before we kind of start getting into things? I've got a couple little bullet points I want to hit, but figure I'll give you a second if you either want to type in chat or come off mute. I'll give you a couple seconds to pitch in if you have any comments or questions. Okay. Throughout the, excuse me, throughout the session, if you want to pop any questions you have in the chat, we are going to keep track of them and save the chat for later. My goal is to make a kind of FAQ document of like just questions that were commonly asked between these two sessions and also make that available with the recordings. But yeah, we'll get started. So a couple of quick housekeeping things before we kind of actually get into the what's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me, the kind of demonstration of the new system. So one question that did come up on Monday that I want to make sure that I'm clear about first is that from this point forward, after you've completed onboarding today, you will be good to go and start in Clio. Um, any new borrow requests to borrow an item that you have from this point on should be placed in Clio. Your accounts should be set up. And it should be the same login for information as it was in Peabody. If you're trying to log in, you have issues, or you're even just having an issue placing the request, Peabody is there as a backup. But I'd like to stop accepting any new sorts of requests in it by May 1st so that we can clear out as much as possible before I shut down Peabody in the beginning of June. So from this point on, if you could please put any new requests to borrow in Peabody, excuse me, in Clio, that would be wonderful. That on the flip side, if a request is currently outstanding, whether it's something that you lent out or an older borrowing request that came in like a month or so ago, if a request for either of those things originated in Peabody, we are going to try and clear out as much as we can before June. So if it originated in Peabody, please update it in Peabody. We're going to close out as much as we can before we go to shut down Peabody. Any sorts of requests that we still have outstanding at the end of May, start of June, we can still replicate in Clio for tracking, just to make sure that everything gets cleared up. But if over the next month you could just review your account for anything that is still not listed as completed, I know I have to go through and start updating the items that have been received back, which is just a manual process that I have not had time to do the past few weeks, in between everything else. So I will update those as soon as possible. But if anything on your end, you're noticing that you never received an item back, or if a patron has an overdue item, if you could just kind of start following up on those and closing out what you can in Peabody, that would be wonderful. Additionally, just while we're getting everybody onboarded into the new system, like the expectation is absolutely that you're probably going to run into an issue here or there. If you do encounter an issue with either the website itself or with documentation about how to use the website, please do let me know. Shoot me an email and document the problem you're having in as much detail as possible. Really helpful things for me are going to be screenshots if you're on a web page and you're seeing something weird or like an error. Sending me a screenshot is always helpful. If it's in one of the write-up documents to give you the step-by-step guide, giving me a link to the document and even listing like the step that you're on would be extremely helpful. And if you're watching like one of the tutorial videos, you can always give me a timestamp in the video to let me know that this is the problem or the step that you're getting stuck on. So, as much info as possible so that I can help pinpoint it. Thank you. And then, so right now, I'm working in the next few months on creating the full procedure guide, but right now there is a set of step-by-step documents that, again, I'm going to show you momentarily that are most analogous to the big, huge printout of full Peabody procedures about how to do each task. The current printouts cover a vast majority of tasks that you take care of on a day-to-day basis. I'll bring those up in just a second. And you're free to print those out and leave them for reference for your staff. There's nothing so like sensitive or anything on them, so you can feel free to print those out. They include screenshots and show you where to click and exactly what to do. And so far, they've seemed like they've been working really well with the beta group and the folks that have onboarded so far. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll share my screen, and we'll take a look at our new system. So, if you're not aware, White Pine did update. Let's see here. Can everybody see my screen? I've got the WPLC website up right now. Should be good.
Yes.
See. Okay, cool. Thank you. So, if you're not aware, we did update the WPLC website this early this winter. Um, on the front page right now, there is a button. If you just scroll down a little bit, you'll still see your little Peabody dude for now. And you'll see it's listed as Clio / Inter Peabody Interlibrary Loan Access and Tutorials. If you click in here, you notice that the existing documentation for Peabody and the link to it is all up in here on the top half, while there's some stuff down here for Clio. So the big thing to note about Clio is that there are two websites. I suggest bookmarking them both just so that you can have easy access to them. One is specifically used just to request a new item that you want to borrow. And then the other one is for more in-depth processing on those borrows as well as the lens. And we'll kind of get into where that split is. But one is just for putting in a new request to borrow something. the second site is for everything else. So both of those are listed here. You've got your requesting site and the processing site. We'll take a look at those in a minute. If you go down here in documentation, you'll notice that there's a Clio step-by-step workflows. And this will bring up a page here with these are the five biggest things that I think most people have had questions about as we've been going through. And it's your most basic tasks of how do you put the new borrow request in? How do you process that request when it like comes in? When it needs to go back to the library, anything like that is going to be covered in these documents. You'll see that it has link to the site as well, right in the document. It shows you where to click. All of that information is highlighted and should be pretty easy to follow. Um, like I said, if you have any issues with these, you can tell me exactly what step you're on. So when I go to fix it, that would be super helpful. But feel free to print these off for your staff if you want to. Otherwise, they're always going to be housed on the website and available for you to look at there. Um, and then there's also at this moment a tutorial video that I recorded and posted on our YouTube page that goes over exactly everything I'm going to cover today. But it's just a real clean 10-minute recording that goes over those same steps that are listed in the workflows. So I really suggest if you have a question, just kind of take a peek at these two resources. They're very helpful. Meanwhile, the original procedure manual that was this big, huge, like hefty PDF document, this is just going to take time for me to replicate for the new system and gather screenshots and consider how some of our previous statuses may translate to Clio going forward. So my goal is to get this a Clio version of this document made in and released in the fall, most likely. But as we onboard and get people going, the odds are that we are going to have procedures and processes that change. So getting it out ahead of everybody starting with this program was really just not realistic when the odds are very high that we may end up changing some things along the way. So, but all that said, let's actually take a look at the program. So the first thing you're going to do if you have a patron that comes in and you're trying to get an item for them and it's not available in Mail, you can just go to the requesting site for Clio. So like I said, your login credentials are going to be the same as they were in Peabody. Same username and password. Once you're on have that information entered, you can click login. It'll bring you to this landing page. It'll say, welcome to the ILL service, and then give you your name. Something that's really great about Clio that was not a feature in Peabody is that a lot of the tasks in it are now finally automated. There was a kind of understandable misconception that Peabody would update itself automatically based on what's in OCLC, and that was never the case. It all required me manually going in request by request, updating statuses and dates, and that's why things could kind of take a long time to clear out. Meanwhile, Clio will do that automatically twice a day. The only kind of delay in it is between when you initially put the request in, I review it and then send it out. But once I send it, everything will, those status updates will be automatic. Both when the lender updates something and when you log into your account and say that, yes, we've received it or anything like that. So love that. There's also a link on the homepage to the WPLC website, that same page that we were just on. So if you need access to the materials, you have a question about something, there's a quick handy link right on the homepage. So, um, like I said, let's say we are trying to place a request for a book. We're going to pretend that this book doesn't exist in state because it is like my favorite thing I've read this year and I keep yapping about it to everybody. So we're going to use it as an example. So let's say that you have a patron that comes in and they're looking for a copy of The Raven Scholar, which is high recommend in my humble, not so humble opinion. I really liked it. Bring this up on the side for myself. Let's see here. So on your request form, you're going to notice that there are a few more options, as well as, excuse me, there's a few more options for material types than there was previously. That way you can really specify if like a patron needs something to be in large print, like there's that option there. It also breaks it out between Blu-ray and DVD because not every DVD player plays Blu-rays. Um, Additional formats are also here, like video games. I've been getting more requests lately for video games, which is super cool, and I'm always excited to see libraries lending those out across the country. But so you'll pick the material type from the drop down. We're going to assume that I just want the regular book for now. And let's see here. So you put the title in. You'll notice that some of these fields are highlighted in red, and though that means that the field is required to be entered. So, for example, I don't necessarily need the publisher or the ISBN, but I am asking for the OCLC number of the item. And this is just to help cut down on requests for items that aren't actually available in WorldCat. So I'll show you too how to do a quick search for that number if you don't know about it yet, and some of the changes that have been made to WorldCat. We'll get to that in just a second. But right now I'm just going to fill in the Raven Scholar, and that's Antonia Hodgson, excuse me. Then Hodgson Antonia, and it was a 2025 book. I've got the ISBN here just because it makes it easier for me. I like to include it. And we're going to pop over to WorldCat quick to grab that OCLC number. If you're not aware, WorldCat has made like a adjustment in recent months where they require you to sign in to see any of the more in-depth details about an item, but it is possible to still get the OCLC number without creating an account and signing into the website. So what we're going to do is just put in a search for the Raven Scholar. And there's my lovely book. So if you click on the title, it'll open up this basic page first. It'll allow you to do that. But if you wanted to go ahead and click show more information, WorldCat now tells you that they want you to sign in, which it has caused some grief in some of the listservs that I'm on. I think it's to cut down on data scraping and some similar issues with like data collection for other for-profit services. But you do not need to create an account just to grab the OCLC number. I'm going to go back to that page real quick and show you. If you have the item open, if you check in your URL, this number at the end is your OCLC number for the item that you're looking at. You can absolutely just copy and paste that into your request, and then you don't need to sign in and make an account. But if you do want that more information so that you can also grab the ISBN, it is free to make an account. They don't make you sign up for any of their subscriptions, thankfully. So you would just sign in and they would give you that info then in that drop down. So I've got it here. I'll save you that. And I also don't think I have my password saved on there. So I'm using a different browser for tutorial things. Ignore me. But so once you have those red boxed fields filled in, you're good to go ahead and submit the request. If you want, you can include a date that you need the item to be received by. Specifically, this is going to be more helpful if you have things like students that are working on a research paper where they know that they need to have it by X date so that they can actually do the reading and then submit their drafts. Just as a heads up, I really can't guarantee items to be at your library like sooner than 10 days from the request due to like shipping and processing times. It really depends on just USPS. It depends on when the lender answers the request, how far away they are. So I think most people know by now that like if you're going for a nationwide loan, it's going to take an extra minute. So I say like don't promise them anything sooner than 10 days, but you don't need to include that if you don't have a specific date. There is a field as well for notes. This could be about if you know that the item is going to be a specialty one, like say that it's something that's probably going to have to come from an academic library. Usually they're going to be the ones that are going to charge an additional cost for the loan. So if you know that they're willing to pay an additional $10 and you check with them ahead of time, you can include that information in the field. I'm still going to email you about it just to double check, but that gives me a better sense of like what the range is of options available, instead of me just listing everything possible from like a $0 to a $50 cost. So, also, in this form, there is a list of all of the participants. This is just to make sure that the request gets applied to your account. It should be automatically selected for you, your library. If it's not, just scroll through the list and find your name. I know it's not alphabetical in terms of the way that the library name is listed, but in the back end, it goes by your username. So if, for example, your If you were Flushing Memorial Library, your username is BIR, you would be closer up towards the top. So anything that starts with like a Z, going to be down here at the bottom. Um, Hopefully that makes sense. But like I said, should all be listed here. I'm going to see if there's a way in the coming months where I can maybe change how that displays. But last field is for the patron name. Just something to kind of keep in mind, and I'll show you this when we log into the processing side, is that there is kind of an interesting way that we have to manage how patron name displays in the requests. You're going to see in some places in Clio where the ILL contact for your library is listed as a patron, and that's okay. That's on purpose. Essentially, you're considered my patron, and then you can include additional info for the actual patron you're getting the item for. So you can go ahead and put the name of the person that you're getting something for. So I'm going to say we're getting this for Whitney Pine. And the last thing I do suggest is if you haven't checked Mel like one more time, there is a button down here at the bottom where you can go ahead and click that, and it'll perform a basic search in Mel, essentially just title and author first, but you can also just go grab the ISBN and pop it back in. Just make sure that there's nothing in state. Save yourself a few extra bucks and shipping time, essentially. But if you've got all that information entered, you can go ahead and hit submit, and you'll just get a note that, like, thank you, your request has been submitted, and you're good to go. If you want to see kind of a brief overview of the requests that you've placed in your account, you can go up here to history. And it'll show kind of and like I said, very basic stuff about it. Really just title, author, the date it was requested, and the status that it's currently sitting in. You have some options to filter for if it's a recent one. If you're looking for a specific title, you can flip the way that it filters. If you want it Z to A, you can do that. But like I said, the more robust information will be in the processing site. Additionally, there is an option here in your account details where if you want to adjust the main name list for the account and then the email address that gets notified, like with the confirmation email for your requests, it should be the contact for whoever your ILL contact is for your library. This is not for like the patron's email or anything like that. This is supposed to be your ILL staff person. So if that changes, you're free to put this in here, but also please notify me just so I can make sure my records are updated. And then if you need to change your password, you can also do that in this section here. But that's pretty much it for the processing site. It's pretty straightforward. There is a separate one for if you're, a separate form for if you're looking for a copy of an item. This is more applicable for journal articles or genealogy requests, and it's a lot of the same information as in the borrow form, but it just processes on my back end a little bit more differently. So that's pretty much it. When you're done, you can always just hit log out. It'll let you know you're good to go. You can click to sign back in again. But other than that, that's really all that this first borrowing site is for. Any questions before we move on to looking at the processing site? Cool. Okay. So this one is definitely where the bulk of your work is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and close all of that out and take a look at the processing site. So your processing site information to log in is going to be the exact same as it was for the borrowing site and the exact same for Peabody. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as if I were an ILL staff person at a library. And when you log in, you're going to be brought immediately to this landing page where it shows your current pending requests. Requests will show up here after I've reviewed them and submitted them to OCLC. So if you're not seeing it in pending, odds are I just haven't looked at it yet and sent it off. But once a request has been sent out to potential lenders, it'll start populating in this area. So there's also separate sections broken out for any items that are currently on loan. Um, you also have your return status, and you can keep track as well of any requests that have been canceled, where if you would maybe want to like open something that a patron had previously decided they didn't want, you could kind of just duplicate it from in here. But so let's pretend, let's see here, let me just organize my screens a little bit so I don't have everything piled in one section. There we go. Make sure that I'm keeping on track. We're going to go ahead and pretend that we have just received an item in the mail, and we're going to notify Clio that item we requested is now at our library. So let me just bring this up so I can make sure I'm following along and I'm not missing anything. There we go. Cool. So after you've received an item, what you're going to do is log into the processing site. Odds are, if you're just receiving it, it should be in this pending tab. If it's not in here, you can always search by basic information about the request. Um, like you can absolutely just pop in the system ID number and it'll bring it up. So if that's on any of your paperwork, you can do that. You can search by title and author as well, but any items that you're waiting to update to received are going to be in pending. So all you do is you click open. We're going to pretend that we got this also excellent book that I swear I'm not trying to cheese you here, Christian, whose sister wrote this book. But let's say we received our copy of The Bells, and we want to go ahead and update that and notify the lender that yes, we've received our book, and have passed it on to the patron. All your work is going to be done down here in the Update Options dropdown. Okay. So once you click on that tab, you're going to see a few options, and Clio automatically sorts these tabs based on the most likely function that you're trying to do at this point in time. So since it's currently pending, it knows that most likely you're going to be updating this status to being received. So we're going to click Receive Loan. Let's see here. Let me see here. There we go. So what you're going to do first is you're just going to update the date that you received the item at your library. So we're going to pretend that it's today, that we did in fact get it. You're going to find that the person who lent it to you is automatically filled out as well as the due date. Since this is kind of a dummy request, I'm going to have to enter this manually, which is totally fine. But that information will automatically populate based on what the lender says on any normal request. But so it'll give you the due date listed by the library in OCLC. You do have the option where if you want to set an earlier due date for your library so that you know to contact your patron a few days ahead of time so you can get the item in the mail, you can set a separate patron due date and keep track of that as well. Totally optional, up to you and what works best for your library. The only other thing on this screen that you want to make sure you have checked is print bookstrap. This is just going to get you your paperwork to include with the item that you pass off to your patron. And once you've got everything entered, you have that checked, you just click update. And you'll see this little tab that says request updated. And at that point, you'll notice if you scroll back up, this status icon previously said processing. It has now been updated to received loan. So if we go back to our list of requests, you'll see that pending, the bells has now moved on. If we were to go over to on loan, you'll see that it's now in this list. Sometimes you'll have to reload your page. Just a quick refresh is all you really need to get that going if it seems like it hasn't updated yet. But once you've got that done, you'll notice up here in your upper toolbar, you now have a number one up here next to printouts. And this is where any of your printables like book straps or return labels are going to, those jobs are going to populate. So we're going to click printouts. We're going to click print mine. And you'll see here, you'll get a document that pops up. I have to include in my documentation because I still didn't do this on Monday. I find that the book straps print best in portrait mode, while the return labels print best in landscape, which I'll put that in the print document this afternoon. Um, Orientation, there we go. But once you've got this, you just hit print. You got yourself a handy dandy book strap. What my contact at Clio suggested is that if you wanted to use this part up in front as your front of your strap, kind of chop it in half and keep the back half would normally have your returning library's shipping information, which I can show you that on an actual request. Let me stop my share just a second and I'll show you what that looks like, just in case this is something that you're interested in doing and it would be helpful for you. Screen two, please. I'll just drag this over. So, on a request that has an actual lender and everything attached to it, let's see. Let's open up this one here. So, if you were to go ahead and then print a book strap for this book here that has an actual lender, what you could do is essentially chop this right down the middle. Use this as your front half with the information that shows for your patron to like, please return it to your library. You could use this half as the back end of your book strap that lays inside the cover. And then you could absolutely just chop this part off as a shipping label if you wanted. Alternatively, there is an option to just print a shipping label within the request. There's a return label drop down. We'll get back to that in a minute. But anyway, so let me see here. It's the same process with once you've received an item, if you're going to be returning it. Let me close that out and go back to our, excuse me, processing site. Apologies. There we go. So back in my account where I had my request that I just updated to received, let's go ahead and return an item that we already have. So let's pretend that the Hunger Games has come back. Patron has dropped it off at the library. You're going to do the same thing in here for returning an item in Clio. You'll open the request, go down to update options. Admit that. And you'll see that Clio has once again automatically ordered these tabs based on what you're probably looking for at this current request status. You'll notice that there are also additional tabs than there were in Peabody. Um, I'm going to see if maybe some of these might be something we look into turning off in the future, depending on if they're confusing or if they are actually helpful for some folks. What you want when you're returning an item is the returned tab, not patron return. So this is your returned tab is when you're shipping something out. So we're going to click returned. Let's see here. I'm going to reorganize my life again real quick. There we go. So once you click return, you're just going to enter the date that the book was brought, that you're shipping the library out. Excuse me, you're shipping the book out from the library. You'll enter the date that you're shipping out from the library. I don't necessarily need to know how it was done. I'm assuming you're going to be using USPS, but you don't necessarily need to fill out that information. The date is really about it. There is a private notes tab here if you want to document anything abnormal that may have happened with the loan, like say you received the item damaged in the mail, or the patron has come back and told you that something happened, like their dog chewed on it. If you want to include those details, just as a heads up that I might be getting like a invoice, you can include it here. It doesn't go to the borrower in OCLC. This is only something that you and I will see. But that way you can just add some additional notes for like watching later down the road. You also have the option here to click to print return label. And once you've got that, you just click update. You'll see your little request updated notification again, and you'll see that your status is updated to returned. Same steps to print the label. If we go back to our list, you'll see again, you've got printouts, print mine, and you'll get a handy dandy return label. And like I mentioned, this one tends to print best in landscape, but I'll add that to the document this afternoon. So, but yeah, that's how you would process a borrow request for any sorts of items that you are trying to borrow from out of state. Any questions so far, or comments? It's like I said, everything is documented on where you need to click in those step-by-step workflows. But kind of as we start using this over the summer, we'll have a better idea of maybe some features that would be that are like left hidden to avoid confusion. But also, the thing that I do like about Clio is that it offers you more flexibility in how you want to manage your reports and your record keeping. So hearing nothing so far, we'll keep going and just keep us on track. We're going to go ahead and look at how to answer a lending request next. So occasionally, if you are participating in interlibrary loan with Clio, I will occasionally assign you a request to lend an item out. And the way I select that is just based off of who has holdings in MEL and who tends to submit the most requests to borrow. I try to keep that as balanced out as I possibly can. Um, but so, as I mentioned earlier, the processing site is where you do any work that's not just putting that request to borrow in. So we're going to go ahead and navigate to the lending site. And the way that you keep that separate and know that you're in the correct area is if you go up here to this drop-down menu, click drop-down. Your borrowing half of the processing site is always going to have this blue bar up at the top. So borrowing is for blue. If you want to look at requests to lend an item out, you're going to click that drop-down, click go to lending home, and it switches over to this red bar up at the top instead. So that's just a good visual cue and reminder. Let's see here. Just going to open up this document for myself so I keep myself on track and don't ramble too much. So when you are assigned a lending request, you will receive an email from an address that says libill. I'll show you what that looks like quick. So you'll get a request in your email. It'll say new lending request has been allocated to your branch. It'll give you a link directly to the request where if you want to just click on this, it'll automatically open the processing site and take you to that new request. But it also gives you the information about the title, author, and the Clio ID as well, where if you wanted to just log in normally and look it up yourself, you can do that. So that'll automatically send when I assign a request to your library. So you will get an email notification to log in and check your lending site, as compared to needing to manually log in and check every single day. So that was super handy, very grateful. That actually was not a feature until I asked the contact in Clio about it, and she was all too glad to add the button. So big points to Clio. Love them. Very open to adding features as they come up. So just something I wanted to mention. They've been great to work with so far, specifically for how accommodating they've been with just adding little things like that for quality of life. So let's go ahead and assume that we have a new request, like I said, that we want to answer. So our email was for breaking rules. So I was assigned this request in my account. And you'll see up here at the top of the request all of the bib information about it. I will add the call number in Mel as well, so that makes it a little bit easier for you to just look at it and know exactly where it is in your system. Let me switch this over again because I'm starting to get ahead of myself. There we go. But what you're going to do is once you have that item in hand, we're going to assume first that you are able to lend this item out. What you're going to do is scroll down, and we're going to use our old friend, the Update Options tab. If yes, you are able to lend an item, you're going to go ahead and click Yes Loan. So first thing you're going to fill out is going to be your shipped date. We're going to assume it's today. Like I mentioned, I will add that call number from Mel to help make it a little bit easier on you. Let's see here. By default, Clio assigns a due date that is 60 days out from the day you're answering the request. You have the full ability to change this to whatever due date you like. So let's say I have like a 30-day loan span typically. I can just update this to the 23rd of May instead. So feel free to whatever your policy is, that's up to you. Your library, the user symbol that you log in with as a username should always be listed in this drop down automatically. If it's not, just make sure to like update it, but this should always show your library by default. So just as a heads up. Additionally, you want to make sure print book strap is checked, so that you have some paperwork to send out with the item. And you can also opt to print a shipping label as well if you like. So once you've got that done, you will click update again. You get your little request updated option. You'll notice that it's updated up here to yes loan. And once again, it's moved out of this pending in process kind of queue up front where I could go instead to my on loan items. And there it is. So, which I'm going to have to fix that later because I just realized I answered a real loan, which is fine. We will fix that. So if no, you can't lend an item, what we're going to do is go to in process and grab a different one instead. One if you can't lend an item out, the important thing that I want you to remember is that you do not want to answer no, that you cannot lend. Essentially, what this does is it moves the request on from everybody who's participating in Clio. It makes it so that nobody else can answer it. And it'll move it on to a different institution in WorldShare. So we want to give, if there's multiple people who are participating in Clio that have that item, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to try and fill that as well. So what instead you'll do is you'll open that in-process item that you've been asked to lend out, and go to update options, and instead of clicking no, you're going to click notes. So no is notes instead. What you're going to do is in the private notes, you will type your username that you log in with that borrows borrower symbol. So I'm just going to pretend mine is the easy W that we use for White Pine. And you will just include the reason that you can't lend. So for me, let's say that it's because it's in use slash on loan. And I just can't give it out because a patron already has it. You'll then click update. And your final step will be to scroll back up and use this flag drop down. You'll select the only item that you'll be able to select is back to WPLC. And what this will do is just let me know that I need to reassign this to a different library under our symbol. And if there's nobody else, I will move it on in WorldShare myself. So it's pretty much same thing. All of your work is really going to be in this update options tab. But yeah, just keep, I'm going to see if there's maybe a way that we can try to like reorder this where no is not your first one. I would really like to see if there's a way for Jennifer to do that. I'm going to make a note of that for myself, but at the very least, try to associate no is notes. Um, but that's how you update a borrow request. And it'll be the same thing too, where if you get an item back, you've received it back, you'll go to your on loan tab, open up the request, see, and you would just fill it in here. Because this item hasn't been actually received by the library, the tab isn't here for like receive back. So, but it's the same process as it would be in the borrowing side. Let's see here. If you end up needing to reprint anything in Clio, I'm just going to go back over to the borrowing side so I don't make any more silly mistakes. If you need to reprint something like a book strap or a shipping label, you can always go to in the request this drop down one in the upper right. Most helpful for you are going to be your book strap and your return labels. I'm not really utilizing the other printouts as much, but if that becomes something where a library would rather use one of these formats, you can absolutely just click it and take a look at it and let me know that, hey, this actually would be very helpful for me if you include XYZ information. But so we're going to pretend I need a new book strap. It'll show you the print preview and you can just hit print and you'll be good to go. So, any questions? I know it's kind of a lot. Again, all of this is detailed in the basic functions video that's currently available. It's a quick 10-minute watch and a lot more streamlined and a lot less of my little aside notes. So it is there. There is a clean version available. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if I have anything else that I need to show you before we move on. No, I think that's really about it for the demonstration side. One last thing I did want to show you. That's what it was. Where your patron name shows up. So on items that you currently are borrowing, if you click open on a request, your patron name for the actual person who's going to be taking the item out and responsible for it is going to show up as branch patron. That's where the patron's name is going to show, while your name of the ILL contact for your library is going to be in this patron name tab. Again, it's just kind of like how the system works. A lot of different types of libraries use Clio, including academics and libraries with multiple branches, which is kind of how we're set up. But your patron's name that is associated with the request will show up here in this top portion, along with all of the main bib info of the item. So cool. Does anybody have any questions now that I've shown you all of that? I can absolutely go back through and bring items up again if you would like to see something a second time. If you have questions about something I didn't cover. One thing that I am requesting is that if you have a request for a renewal to still reach out to me for right now. just shoot me an email and I'll make sure that that gets put in and processed correctly. Um, but past that, that's how the new system goes. And hopefully it's going to be a good update. Yes, RIP Peabody, our dear friend, Mr. Peabody. He has lived a good life. It is time for him to retire. It is his time to have a go time and go do whatever he wants to do other than handle our old loans in a 2000s forum kind of style. So we appreciate him for his service, but it is time to move on to something that I think is going to be a lot easier for all of us and lead to faster processing times and a lot faster and more efficient work on both our ends. So if you want to unmute and you have questions, I'll leave that available. This is really about all I have to show you for now. I'll give it a couple minutes, but seeing some thank yous in the chat. Absolutely. I'm really, really pleased so far with what I've seen with Clio. Our support over there is really wonderful. My contact Jennifer Perkins has been so helpful throughout the entire process. An additional benefit to all of this is that if something breaks, it's not just like the buck stops with me anymore. There is an entire support team where I can reach out and ask questions, and they've been super responsive to if we have individualized needs for how our group is set up. They've been very willing to help and try and accommodate that as much as possible. But yeah, that's about all I've got for y'all. Seeing some more good comments, which I'm really glad. I'm glad y'all, I really hope y'all like it. I know it will be a adjustment period, but again, we're going to get through this together. That full procedure manual will be coming in the fall. The usual policies are all in place, so you can just absolutely, if you're not sure if something is okay to request, you can still use that old Peabody documentation to check if it fits the parameters of what is a proper item that you're able to request. So cool. If you do have questions after this, feel free to reach out. You can shoot me an email or give me a call. My contact form is also on the website. You can submit something that way if you like. But I will be out of the office tomorrow. I will be back on Monday. Not exactly optimal time for me to be out, but my sister's getting married, so it's bachelorette weekend, and that's important and takes precedence because she's only doing this once, and I'm very excited for her. So, um, without any other questions, I'll let y'all get going. I'm going to save the chat in case I need anything for later. But thank you all so much for stopping by. I'm really grateful for your patience throughout this process. It has been so appreciated. And your continued patience as we work through this new thing together is also super greatly appreciated. So thank you. I'll let you all get going. You enjoy your Thursday afternoon. Like I said, reach out if you have any questions. Thanks, y'all.